And the US Justice Department is dropping its investigation into the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell over alleged building cost overruns. US Attorney Jeanine Pirro said instead there would be an internal investigation led by the central bank's Inspector General.
For months, rumours and secrecy have surrounded last year's alleged Independence Day coup plot in Nigeria. But with this week's indictment of 6 people accused of involvement comes the first details of what is said to have been an elaborate plan to oust President Bola Tinubu. It was due to take place on the 4th October 2025, the day Nigeria marked the 65th anniversary of its independence from the UK.
And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he has undergone successful treatment for early-stage prostate cancer after a small tumour was discovered during a routine checkup. The information was published on Friday in Netanyahu's annual medical report, with the Israeli leader posting on social media to explain that doctors discovered and treated the tumour during a medical checkup. The information was not announced at the time. And on April 20, the United States fired at and then seized an Iranian-flagged container ship close to the Strait of Hormuz in the northern Arabian Sea, amid its blockade of Iranian ports. It was similar to a scene which played out in the 1980s during the so-called tanker war between Iran and Iraq, during which both countries fired on each other's tankers in the Strait of Hormuz, seeking to cripple each other's economies.
Cornable exclusion zone, Ukraine. It's a freezing January morning and the sun is glistening across a placid, snowy, forested landscape. But the calm is deceptive. An air raid siren suddenly blares across the crisp winter air.
And the United States has 3 aircraft carriers in the Middle East for the first time in 23 years, with the arrival of the USS George H.W. Bush. The US military has said, amid a fragile ceasefire with Iran. The Middle East-based Central Command of the US military said on Friday that the carriers include 12 accompanying ships, more than 200 aircraft and 15,000 soldiers. And the United States Department of Justice has ended its probe into US Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, clearing a major roadblock to the confirmation of his successor, Kevin Walsh. US Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, said on X on Friday that her office was ending its probe into the Fed's extensive building renovations because the Fed's Inspector General would scrutinize them instead. And MG Motor Pakistan has launched the second-generation MGHS and announced its price and booking details at an event held today. The new model is based on the latest global generation introduced in 2024 and will be available in Pakistan with 2 hybrid powertrains. These include a conventional hybrid marketed as Hybrid Plus and a plug-in hybrid variant branded as Super Hybrid. Pakistan has secured 3 very expensive emergency liquefied natural gas (LNG) cargoes from the spot market to avoid electricity shortages ahead of peak summer demand. And the Pakistan LNG Limited (PLL) received 4 bids on Friday after floating bids to cover a shortfall of 4,500 megawatts. The purchases are almost 140% more expensive than Pakistan's long-term LNG supplies from Qatar, and which typically average around 7.9 per MBTU, and also exceed recent RLNG prices notified by the Oil and Gas Regulatory Authority. And Karachi. An 11-year-old boy was feared to have drowned after he could not be recovered hours after being swept away while swimming in an open water line in Karachi's Scheme 33 area on Friday. East Deputy Commissioner DC Nazrullah Basim, supervising the rescue operation, who was supervising Zahid Mohammed Khan, told Dawn that the boy, Zahid, 2 p.m. while swimming in the Karachi Water and Sewerage Corporation, KWSC's line. And Benfica's Gianluca Prestiani has been handed a 6-match suspension for discriminatory conduct that was deemed homophobic in a Champions League match against Real Madrid. UEFA announced Prestiani will be banned for 2 more matches after UEFA said on Friday that a further 3-match suspension would be subject to a probationary period of 2 years, starting from the date of the present decision. He has already served a one-match provisional suspension.
That. A UK government unit responsible for documenting Israel's possible war crimes during its genocidal war in Gaza has been shut down amid funding cuts, The Guardian has reported. The London-based newspaper on Wednesday reported that cuts within the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO, have forced the International Humanitarian Law Cell to close. That. Yet another government spyware maker has been caught after its customers used fake Android apps to install its surveillance software on targets, according to a new report. On Thursday, Osservatorio Nessuno, an Italian digital rights organization that researches spyware, published a report on a new malware it calls Morpheus. The spyware, which masquerades as a phone updating app, is capable of stealing a broad range of data from an intended target's device.
And nuclear startup X-Energies raised $1 billion in its initial public offering yesterday, selling 44.3 million shares for $23 each, a hefty premium above the $16 to $19 per share it was seeking. Initially, the company had hoped to raise around $800 million. The stock is expected to begin trading on Friday on the Nasdaq exchange under the ticker XE.
That. Bolt Graphics has announced the completed tape-out of a test chip for its Zeus GPU, marking the company's first move from FPGA emulation to manufactured silicon. The California-based startup said the architecture could deliver 17 times lower compute costs.
And Pakistan's textile industry has urged the State Bank of Pakistan, SBP, to enhance export refinance facilities, citing rising costs in a letter addressed to the SBP governor. The Al Pakistan Textile Mills Association, the APTMA, said the sector is facing increasing working capital constraints due to higher energy costs, supply chain disruptions, and global uncertainties.
That. Islamabad, the National Database and Registration Authority, NADRA, has revamped its website, enabling citizens to access district-level birth and death records and also file right-to-information RTI requests online through a verified login. According to the authority, it has launched a major overhaul of its website and replaced a text-heavy site that had been criticised as outdated and hard to navigate.
And Islamabad. After a gap of 28 months, state-run Pakistan LNG Limited on Friday secured 3 bids at 17,997 to 18.88 per million British thermal units MBTU for delivery between April 27 and May 8. A total of 4 bids were received and 3 were declared the lowest. And the Worldwide Fund for Nature Pakistan, WWFP, on Friday highlighted potentially irreversible risks and ecological degradation from development work at the foothills of Islamabad's Margalla Hills, and calling for the suspension of all such proposed and ongoing activities pending a transparent environmental review. The conservation organisation's call came 3 days after the Ministry of Interior announced that a new park and spanning 1,000 canals would be developed at the foothills of the Margalla Hills. And Ghana has summoned South Africa's top envoy to the country over reported acts of intimidation and harassment against its citizens and other African migrants in the southern African nation. Earlier this week, video clips were shared online showing vigilante groups attacking and confronting people they believed were in South Africa illegally. In one of them, they challenge a Ghanaian man over his status. And dual insults, one from the US president and another from a Russian commentator, flung at Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, appear to be uniting at least some of her critics behind her. Last week, US President Donald Trump, who has historically had a close relationship with Italy's conservative leader, decried Meloni as unacceptable after she stood up to him over his criticism of Pope Leo XIV. And Amal Khalil was killed while reporting on an Israeli airstrike in southern Lebanon during a 10-day ceasefire. She is the 9th journalist killed in Lebanon this year. As Lebanon buries her and talks continue on extending the ceasefire, what does her death say about the prospects for accountability? In this episode, and After an intense bombardment struck near his home, 5-year-old Jad Zafud suddenly lost his ability to speak. He is not alone. Across Gaza, specialists are reporting a rising number of children who can no longer speak following war-related injuries or psychological trauma.
That Chinese AI lab DeepSeek has launched 2 preview versions of its newest large language model, DeepSeek V4, a much-awaited update to last year's V3.2 model and the accompanying R1 reasoning model that took the AI world by storm. That, the company says both DeepSeek V4 Flash and V4 Pro are a mixture of experts models with context windows of 1 million tokens each, enough to allow large code bases or documents to be used in prompts. That, the mixture of experts approach involves activating only a certain number of parameters per task to lower inference costs.
And in the last few years, AI-powered dictation tools have taken off. In addition to existing dictation apps like WhisperFlow, Super Whisper, Willow and Monologue, new ones are being launched every week. On Thursday, and hardware company, Nothing launched a competitive product of its own called Essential Voice. The core idea is similar to other dictation apps, as Essential Voice works in any app to turn your speech into formatted text and removing filler words like and ah along the way. The company said that you can also create custom voice shortcuts for words, links, templates, and repeated phrases. For instance, you can assign the My Address shortcut to your full address. And surprise! Strictly VC San Francisco, which will kick off this year's events lineup for TechCrunch on April 30 at the Centro Filipino Cultural Center, is getting a new addition to its increasingly stacked roster of speakers. And Uber CTO Praveen Nepali Nagar will join us to discuss, you guessed it, operating at scale in the age of AI. You'll need to act swiftly to grab a ticket, though, for what's becoming the go-to event within the SF startup scene next week. And it's an ideal one-stop shop for any founder or investor looking to widen their networks, deepen community ties, and learn from what's now a wildly deep roster of speakers. And Pakistan has emerged as one of the world's most competitive outsourcing destinations, ranking 16th globally in the Global Outsourcing Talent Index 2026. It outperformed 177 countries and placed itself firmly among the top tier of global digital labor markets.
That Indus Cloud has signed a strategic partnership agreement with Pakistan Telecommunication Company Limited, PTCL, to provide advanced cloud solutions powered by Huawei Cloud to PTCL customers. That the partnership marks a significant step in Indus Cloud's and PTCL's joint efforts to strengthen Pakistan's cloud and data center infrastructure and expand access to enterprise-grade digital services in the country. That by combining PTCL's nationwide infrastructure and enterprise reach with Indus Cloud's platform capabilities, the collaboration will make Huawei Cloud Stack services more accessible to enterprise and government customers, enabling secure, scalable and locally hosted solutions tailored to evolving business needs. That we finally have a trailer for Mera Liari, billed as Pakistan's answer to Durandar, and it looks like it'll be a tearjerker. The film, written and directed by Abu Aleha, focuses on the historic Karachi neighborhood of Liari, its girls and their love for football. It will release in Pakistan on May 8 after premiering at the UK Asian Film Festival. That Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Friday that he had received successful treatment for early-stage prostate cancer without specifying when the treatment took place. In a statement on social media as his annual medical report was released, Netanyahu, 76, said an early-stage malignant tumor had been discovered during a routine checkup.